Hey there guys, it's Jesse, and today we're going back into BWD, and I'm going to show you how to take down Heroic Magmaw. Much like the other heroic videos in this series, for detailed information on boss abilities and strategies, click the annotation or the link in the description to see the original Magmaw video. Anyway, let's get down to business. Just like all the other fights in Heroic Blackwing, Nefarian's going to join the encounter and add some form of buff to the boss, or, as in this case, some abilities of his own. When the fight begins, just like in non-heroic, the melee DPS and tanks stand on opposite sides of the boss. The ranged and healers would normally group up outside and run together as seen in my previous video. But we actually found out that it's much simpler and infinitely more effective to do it the way we do it, but we'll get to that in a minute here. Just know that that is why I am in melee range. The first 70% of the encounter is pretty much just like non-heroic. You've got to kill the parasites, avoid the Pillar of Flame, and have two melee latch chains onto him to activate his points of vulnerability debuff. Except, now that Nefarian is in the room, he will hurl meteors at the raid every 30 to 35 seconds. When they hit, they'll do a 5-yard knockback, leaving a row of fire that snakes back and forth, and as with all fires, you don't want to stand in it. Now this ability, as of the last patch, prefers people who are 15 yards out or more, so hopefully it's clicking why we're all in a big melee group. So of course, what this means is that several of your best ranged DPS movers will have to be used as decoys, along with the kiting tank, to taunt the parasites and attract the meteors, and just generally run around in complete and total utter craziness. So yeah, hunters enjoy. What this does though is it frees up those DPS who aren't running around like idiots avoiding every bit of boss damage being thrown at them to deal with part 2 of Nefarian's attack. You see, when the meteor impacts, it spawns a bone construct, which needs to be DPS down right away. And since they come every 30 seconds, that off tank you have running around, or another tank if you can afford it, needs to pull them into the big group so they can quickly be DPS down. In fact, the quicker the better, as when they reach 20%, the constructs channel an 8-second spell called Armageddon that makes them explode, doing enough damage to wipe or near wipe your raid. What's better is that having all your DPS there, it means you now have the ability to use your skills and spells to both hit Magmaw and the constructs. But no matter what, the key here is focusing on the constructs till Magmaw's head comes down. Once the chains latch onto his head, make sure to finish off any remaining constructs and focus on them completely. When Magmaw is impaled, nothing should interfere with the total unloading of DPS on him. Once you've gotten that far, it's just rinse and repeat over and over and over again, just like non-heroic mode, and eventually, you'll enter Phase 2. When Magmaw reaches 30%, Nef will stop his meteors and begin to spam an AoE Shadow Bolt on the raid. They do about 25k damage and have a splash to other players who are close. I think it's like 5-yard range, meaning the entire raid needs to be spread apart. If I were you, I'd get the new Deadly Boss mods. It tells you if anyone is in range or if you yourself are going to be a victim of a splash. Now, the key to Phase 2, just like every other heroic so far, is a smart transition. Remember, not only do you have to deal with Nefarian's constant barrage and Magmaw's abilities, but also the parasites and any constructs still up at the phase shift, which is really hard, not only for DPS, but also on healers' mana. If you can't manage that, you're just going to end up wiping in Phase 2. Oh, and we can't forget he has an enraged timer too, so you can't keep the fight drawn out and try to hold off on the transition. You have to get it perfect. But when you do, bloodlust the hell out of that guy and DPS him down. Luckily for you, since nothing really changes in the fight at 30% besides Nef, Magmaw can still be impaled, and hopefully, if you live long enough, that when he goes down, you can take him out and finish up the fight. It's not a terribly hard fight, just a lot of things to watch out for. Much like the other heroic fights so far, it's this spectacular light show, but really not much else. With some practice, you can easily defeat Magmaw and add him to your list of heroic boss kills. That's it guys, thanks for watching, thumbs up, subscribe, share this with your guildies, and as always, to be continued.